Diplomatic gestures often speak louder than words, and in global politics, even the slightest move can send ripples across international relations. Recent reports suggest that Burkina Faso's interim leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, may have declined an invitation to attend Donald Trump's 2025 presidential inauguration. If true, this could signal a deepening rift between Burkina Faso and the West, reinforcing Traoré's push for sovereignty and alternative alliances. But how much truth is there to these claims? Have African leaders historically attended U.S. inaugurations, or is this narrative simply political speculation? With Burkina Faso's growing ties to Russia and its rejection of Western influence, could this be another strategic decision aimed at reshaping the nation's global standing? Let's break it down. Did Ibrahim Traoré really snub an invitation from the White House? And what does it mean for Burkina Faso's future on the world stage? A political shockwave. As Donald Trump prepares to reclaim the White House, the world's attention is fixed on Washington, D.C., where global leaders are set to attend the high-profile inauguration. However, one unexpected absence is already causing geopolitical ripples. Ibrahim Traoré, the interim leader of Burkina Faso, has declined his invitation. The move has sparked intense speculation. Traoré's decision is being analyzed not only for its diplomatic implications, but also for its broader message to the U.S. and the international community. Burkina Faso, under Traoré's leadership, has increasingly distanced itself from Western influence, favoring closer ties with Russia and other non-traditional allies. His rejection of the invitation could be a continuation of this shift, signaling a defiance of U.S. foreign policy and a refusal to engage in what he may see as performative diplomacy. Observers also point to growing tensions between Washington and Burkina Faso. The U.S. has criticized Traoré's military-led government for alleged democratic backsliding and human rights concerns. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso has accused Western nations of neglecting its security crisis, particularly in combating jihadist insurgencies. By skipping Trump's inauguration, Traoré might be underscoring his dissatisfaction with past U.S. policies and asserting his nation's independence. This decision could further realign Burkina Faso's diplomatic strategy, reinforcing its pivot toward emerging global powers. It also serves as a bold statement against traditional Western dominance in African politics. Whether this signals a long-term fracture in U.S. Burkina Faso, relations remains to be seen, but Traoré's absence will undoubtedly be felt, turning a prestigious diplomatic event into a moment of political reckoning. As Trump embarks on his new term, how his administration responds to this snub will be a key test of U.S. engagement with Africa in an era of shifting global alliances. Burkina Faso's rising defiance against Western influence. Burkina Faso, under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has been vocal in its rejection of Western dominance, embracing a vision of African sovereignty free from neo-colonial influence. Since taking power in a 2022 coup, Traoré has positioned himself as a staunch advocate for self-determination, reshaping Burkina Faso's foreign policy by distancing the country from traditional Western alliances. A key element of this shift has been Traoré's decisive break from France, Burkina Faso's former colonial ruler. His administration expelled French troops and ended military agreements that allowed French forces to operate within the country. These actions align with a broader movement among West African nations seeking to redefine their relationships with former colonial powers. Instead of relying on Western support, Traoré has actively sought alternative partnerships, strengthening ties with Russia and China, nations that have increasingly positioned themselves as allies of African nations seeking independence from Western influence. Burkina Faso's government has also been critical of Western nations for their perceived failure to address security challenges in the Sahel region, which has long suffered from terrorism and instability. Traoré has argued that Western military presence has done little to improve security, prompting his administration to explore alternative strategies. His pivot toward Russia has included military cooperation, arms agreements, and strategic alliances, signaling a new direction in Burkina Faso's foreign policy. The rejection of an invitation from former U.S. President Donald Trump is a symbolic extension of this broader geopolitical stance. By refusing to engage with Western leaders on their terms, Traoré reaffirms his commitment to a Burkina Faso that is free from external dictates, forging a path based on self-reliance and new international alliances. Trump's return and the White House's outreach to Africa. Donald Trump's return to power marks a pivotal moment in American politics, especially regarding U.S.-Africa relations. During his first presidency, Trump faced criticism for his limited engagement with Africa and dismissive rhetoric. However, his administration now appears to be shifting its approach by actively re-establishing ties with key African nations. A prime example is the White House's invitation to Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, signaling renewed diplomatic efforts in the region. This move is not merely symbolic, but a calculated attempt to counter the growing influence of Russia and China on the African continent. Both nations have significantly expanded their economic and military presence in Africa, challenging U.S. interests. Given Burkina Faso's strategic location in the Sahel region, a hotspot for counterterrorism operations and resource-rich opportunities, securing relations with its leadership is vital. By engaging with Traoré, Washington aims to prevent further alignment with Moscow and Beijing while reinforcing its own influence. Furthermore, this outreach underscores a broader U.S. strategy to regain lost ground in Africa. With increasing global competition, the Biden administration's previous engagements with African nations had aimed at fostering economic partnerships. But Trump's approach appears more security-driven. The invitation to Traoré suggests a pragmatic shift, emphasizing stability and strategic alliances over traditional aid-based diplomacy. As global power dynamics evolve, the U.S. is recalibrating its African policy, ensuring that it remains a relevant player in the continent's geopolitical landscape. Africa's newfound leverage. Unlike in previous decades, African nations are no longer passive participants in global geopolitics. They now hold significant bargaining power, choosing alliances based on their own strategic interests rather than historical allegiances. Traoré's refusal to accept Trump's invitation sends a clear message. Burkina Faso will not be swayed by symbolic overtures without tangible commitments. This rejection reflects a broader sentiment across Africa, where leaders increasingly demand mutually beneficial partnerships rather than one-sided arrangements. Trump's outreach highlights the shifting dynamics in U.S.-Africa relations. While the U.S. seeks to reclaim influence, African nations like Burkina Faso are asserting their autonomy, making it clear that diplomatic engagement must be substantive and respectful to be effective. The diplomatic ripple effect. Ibrahim Traoré's decision to decline Donald Trump's presidential inauguration invitation is a calculated diplomatic move with significant consequences. This act signals Burkina Faso's intent to assert its independence in foreign relations, potentially straining ties with Washington while strengthening alliances with other global powers. It could also embolden other West African nations to reassess their diplomatic stance toward the U.S. At a time when geopolitical tensions are shifting, Traoré's decision underscores the evolving power dynamics in the region, positioning Burkina Faso as a key player in West Africa's political landscape and challenging traditional U.S. influence in the area. U.S. Burkina Faso relations at a crossroads. Following Burkina Faso's 2022 coup, the Biden administration maintained only limited engagement, focusing primarily on security concerns. However, Trump's foreign policy remains unpredictable, and Traoré's rejection may be interpreted as a direct affront. This could prompt Washington to reconsider its diplomatic stance, potentially leading to reductions in foreign aid, military cooperation, or counterterrorism assistance. Given Burkina Faso's ongoing battle against insurgency groups, any disruption in U.S. security support could pose serious risks to its stability. Additionally, the rejection may accelerate Burkina Faso's pivot towards alternative allies, such as Russia and China, further distancing itself from Western influence. This bold stance, while reinforcing national sovereignty, could also deepen diplomatic and economic isolation. forcing Traoré to navigate an increasingly complex international landscape. The Russia-China angle. Traoré's decision to reject the White House invitation reinforces Burkina Faso's shift towards U.S. rivals, particularly Russia and China. His government has strengthened military ties with Russia, notably through cooperation with the Wagner Group, which has provided security support amid regional instability. Simultaneously, Burkina Faso has expanded economic partnerships with China, securing investments in infrastructure and trade. This move signals a deliberate realignment away from traditional Western allies, positioning Burkina Faso within a growing bloc of nations seeking alternatives to Western influence. By rejecting Trump's invitation, Traoré makes a symbolic yet strategic statement, one that underscores his commitment to diversifying Burkina Faso's global alliances. This decision is likely to deepen Moscow and Beijing's presence in the region, solidifying their influence at the expense of Western powers. While this shift offers potential benefits, it also risks further straining relations with the U.S. and its allies, increasing geopolitical tensions. West Africa's growing anti-West sentiment. Across West Africa, military-led governments in Mali, Niger, and Guinea are increasingly resisting Western influence. Traoré's snub of Trump's inauguration could embolden these leaders to distance themselves further from the West and seek alternative alliances. This decision may contribute to a broader regional trend of rejecting Western diplomatic norms, further complicating U.S. relations with the Sahel region. Traoré's move is more than just a diplomatic slight. It is a strategic statement reshaping Burkina Faso's geopolitical orientation and influencing the broader West African political landscape. What message is Traoré sending? The decision by Burkina Faso's leader, Ibrahim Traoré, to decline a White House invitation is a powerful diplomatic statement. It underscores his administration's commitment to sovereignty, self-determination, and the pursuit of substantive global partnerships over symbolic engagements, rejecting symbolism in favor of substance. Traoré's government has emphasized prioritizing meaningful action over mere gestures. Attending Donald Trump's inauguration may be seen as a ceremonial formality rather than an opportunity to advance Burkina Faso's interests. In Traoré's view, participation in such an event must offer tangible diplomatic or economic benefits. Without these, he sees no need to engage in symbolic displays of allegiance. A call for respect. For decades, African leaders have criticized the often patronizing tone of Western diplomacy. Many feel that their nations are treated as junior partners rather than equals in global affairs. By rejecting the White House invitation, Traoré sends a clear message. Burkina Faso will not engage in diplomatic pageantry unless it leads to genuine mutual respect and beneficial cooperation. His decision asserts that African nations deserve engagement based on substance, not deference. A challenge to the U.S. This move also presents a challenge to Washington's approach to Africa. The U.S. can no longer assume that leaders will automatically accept invitations simply to acknowledge American influence. Traoré's rejection signals a shift in global dynamics, where African nations demand more than traditional diplomatic courtesies. If the U.S. wishes to maintain strong ties with Burkina Faso and other African nations, it must offer substantive partnerships that go beyond protocol and into real, mutually beneficial collaboration. By declining the invitation, Traoré reinforces Burkina Faso's stance as an independent nation willing to engage with the world on its own terms. Could this backfire on Traoré? Traoré's refusal to attend Donald Trump's inauguration enhances his image as a bold, independent leader, signaling a stance against U.S. influence. However, this defiance carries substantial risks. By challenging the U.S. on the global stage, Burkina Faso could face diplomatic and economic repercussions. These consequences might strain international relationships, potentially isolating the country and hindering foreign investment, aid, or trade opportunities, which could have long-term effects on Burkina Faso's future growth and stability. Possible retaliation from the U.S. The Trump administration is known for its unpredictable and often retaliatory approach to foreign policy. Burkina Faso's rejection of the White House invitation could provoke a strong response. The U.S. might reduce financial aid, impose trade restrictions, or limit military assistance, resources that Burkina Faso has previously relied on. More concerning is the possibility of Washington supporting opposition groups within the country using political pressure or indirect methods to weaken Traoré's administration. Given the U.S.'s history of involvement in African political affairs, this is a plausible risk that could destabilize his leadership. Regional isolation. Although Traoré has sought new allies, particularly among non-Western powers like Russia and China, his relationship with the broader West African bloc remains fragile. Several ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, members maintain strong ties with Western nations and may perceive his decision as unnecessarily confrontational. This could weaken regional cooperation on key issues such as security, trade, and development. Countries that remain aligned with the West may hesitate to collaborate with Burkina Faso out of fear of jeopardizing their own relationships with powerful Western partners. This could lead to Burkina Faso becoming more isolated within its own region, complicating efforts to negotiate trade deals, military partnerships, or economic development initiatives. Economic consequences. The global economy remains heavily influenced by Western institutions, with the U.S. playing a dominant role in international finance. A deteriorating relationship with Washington could make it more difficult for Burkina Faso to access loans from international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. American and European investors may also become wary of doing business in Burkina Faso, reducing foreign direct investment and stalling economic growth. Additionally, strained ties could lead to disruptions in trade agreements, making it harder for Burkina Faso to export key goods to Western markets. Without alternative economic partnerships in place, this could result in slower development and a worsening financial outlook. While Traoré's move is a powerful assertion of national sovereignty, it is not without its costs. To navigate these risks, Burkina Faso must carefully balance its defiance with strategic diplomacy, ensuring that it does not isolate itself or jeopardize its long-term stability. A new era of diplomacy? Ibrahim Traoré's decision to snub Trump's inauguration is not just a diplomatic footnote. It's a bold declaration that Burkina Faso is charting its own course in global politics. His rejection of the invitation underscores the changing dynamics in Africa-US relations, where African leaders are no longer automatically bending to Western expectations. Whether this move strengthens Burkina Faso's standing on the world stage or isolates it remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: Traoré is making it known that the days of unquestioned Western influence over Africa are fading. And in a world where geopolitical lines are constantly shifting, this snub may just be the beginning of a new era in global diplomacy. Whether fact or fiction, the idea of Ibrahim Traoré rejecting a White House invitation speaks volumes about Burkina Faso's evolving place in global politics. If true, it reinforces his defiance against Western influence. If false, it highlights how misinformation shapes public opinion and international relations. What happens next? Will Washington attempt to mend ties, or will Burkina Faso continue to pivot toward non-Western alliances? More importantly, how do the people of Burkina Faso see this? As a stand for sovereignty or a lost diplomatic opportunity? What do you think? Is this a bold move or just media hype? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into global power shifts. The world is watching. Are you?